Hello, everybody. Welcome to the So Now What podcast. My name is Carrie, and I am coming to you from just outside of Portland, Oregon. Today's Tuesday, September 20th, 2016. Welcome to everyone. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. If you're new, thank you for checking me out. I have an influx of new subscribers, and so I want to thank you all for joining me. There's a ton of podcasts out there, and I really genuinely appreciate that you spend some time with me. This podcast is a podcast about knitting and quilting and creativity. So far, it's been mostly knitting and quilting, but I do want to get into other stuff as time allows. So right now, my focus has been on knitting and quilting. So thank you. As you could see in the intro, I went to Dublin Bay, which is a knit yarn shop. I always want to call them a knit shop, but they're not. They're a yarn shop, and you can make whatever you want with yarn. So anyway, it's a really nice yarn shop, and I've been meeting there with Michelle and Leslie and Lori. Michelle and Leslie have the Naughty Knitwits podcast, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and we meet there once a month, and we sit and we knit and go to lunch and just have a fabulous time. This last time it was just Michelle and I, which was also very nice to have some one-on-one time, and you know, it's great. It's just great. So anyway, I thought I'd show you around. It's kind of hard to record when you're walking around because what your eye actually sees, you're taking in so much more. And I tried to go slow enough because when you're filming it, you got to go slower to let you kind of capture what you're seeing. And so I tried to do the best I could, but it gives you a general idea of what the shop looks like. It's a fabulous shop. It's got a lot of really nice yarns. It's very comfortable, and we sit and we knit, and it's just really nice. So that's what you saw in the intro, is that shop in Portland. I also showed a little bit of quilting that I did on a bee quilt. That is a pattern. It's a new pattern that my friend Jenny designed and is publishing for her quilt shop that she owns. I've mentioned it on this podcast before, the Mama Made It Quilt Shop. There's a big quilt show happening in Portland this coming weekend. I think it starts Thursday the 22nd and goes through Saturday. And so it's going to be the big reveal of the pattern, and it was kind of like, we need to hurry up and get this done. So I got it from her Friday afternoon. I got a little bit of quilting done on it on Friday afternoon, and just kind of here and there got what I could get done, and I got it done. I didn't get a picture of the whole quilt because no sooner had I got it done, she came and picked it up because she needed to finish it, get it photographed, and get the patterns printed. So I was able to snap a couple shots of basically what the quilt is. It's 16 blocks of those bee blocks, and it's just really a stunning quilt. So if you are in the Portland area and you're a quilter and you're going to go to the show, you'll see it there. Because of that show, I kind of have a temporary part-time job. Jenny and her daughter run their shop, the Mama Made It Quilt Shop, and when they go to do these shows, they need someone to be in the shop. So I'm going to work in the shop this coming weekend. I actually go in tomorrow, and then the following weekend, and then here and there when they have a show or something coming up, then I'll go and work. And it was it was fun. It was a real adjustment. I haven't gone to work in a really long time. I've worked for myself for a long time here at home. And so it's a new experience. It's a long day because it's about a 50-minute drive for me to get to the shop and then get home. So you tack that on to an 8-hour day, and it's a long day. But it was fun, and I'm really happy that I can help Jenny out. So I will be working in the quilt shop 3 days this week, and then one of the days I'm going to help her at the show, which I've never done that either. I always go to these shows. It's a fabulous show. It's one of my favorite quilt shows because it's got really high quality quilts in it. And it's got a real wide range of quilts and then really good vendors and stuff. So it'll be fun to go and be a vendor, help her in her booth, and then I get to see the show as well. So if you are in the Longview, Washington area this coming weekend, I will be at the Mama Made It Quilt Shop. If you want to come by and see me, I would love to meet anybody that happens to watch this podcast. Gail, if you're in the area, you know where to find me. I'll be there next weekend as well, because then they have a show in Bremerton, Washington. So that has been taking up some time because I'm pretty beat by the time I got home because it was such a long day. And so I'm not going to have any time to do any dyeing this week, but that's okay. Shh. Uh-oh. I think somebody's delivering something. Hold on just a second. Sorry for the interruption. I was really excited. I thought I was getting a delivery, but my neighbor was just getting his yard debris recycling bin delivered. Like, wasn't anything fun. But yeah, we're getting into fall here, and so the leaves are going to start dropping, and when we drop leaves, it's a big job. And so we have recycling bins, and the waste management will come and collect our leaves. So, sorry, I got itchy nose. Sorry about that. Anyway, I forget where I was. So I was talking about working at the quilt shop. That's what's coming up for me. At the end of this video, at the end of this episode, I have a short video. It's a couple minutes long, and it's of our camping trip that we did weekend before last for our anniversary. And so if you are interested in any of that, it will be at the end of this video. I want to say a great, big, huge hug and thank you for all the lovely messages I got off of my last episode. Thank you for being understanding and compassionate. And thank you for those of you who sent me private messages. And I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. You know, when I told Jim that I started this channel, he said, well, be prepared because you might get some, you know, you're opening yourself up for criticism and judgment, and people are just nasty sometimes. And I said, I know, I think I can handle that, you know, and I've had nothing but positive experience and love from all of you. So I don't take that for granted, and I appreciate it so very, very much. So thank you. We had a wonderful time on our camping trip. We went also with some friends, and so it was just, we had a lot of fun and did some hiking, and we camped along the Santiam River. It's the South Fork of the Santiam River, and it's just beautiful. The weather was perfect. We just had a fabulous time. So it felt really good. And then it's like back at it. So when we came back, I did do some dyeing, quite a bit of dyeing. So I have a pretty good shop update towards the end of this episode. Something I want to talk about briefly, if I can be brief, is I'm thinking of changing the name of the podcast, because when I started this podcast, I had absolutely no idea where it would take me, and I was willing to go on the ride. The name So Now What came from my long arming business that I had for 11 years, and it was how I was identified. It's not really going that direction. And so, now, I mean, since I started, I now have an Etsy shop with hand-dyed yarn and project bags, and the direction's really changing. And I talk more, I feel like more about yarn and knitting than I do quilting, although I do talk about quilting as well. So I'm considering changing the name. You can still be a subscriber to this. It won't change anything. I can just change it on the computer. So then when you see it in the feed, it would be a different name. So naming things is really, really hard for me. Some people can just come up with a name really fast, and I'm just not one of those people. So, I'm thinking about the name. One of the names I was tossing around was Knit Quilt Create, because that pretty much sums up what this podcast is. Then if I were to change it, which is all part of the process, is I would be changing my Etsy shop as well, because my Etsy shop is So Now What, which is not really something you think of when you're thinking of buying hand-dyed yarn. So it's all a process. I have to contemplate it, but I did open a thread in the So Now What podcast Ravelry group to get your opinion if you have one. I'm always open for suggestions. I may not take your suggestion, but I will take it to heart and I will consider it, because I don't know. I don't know. I'm really feeling like I should change it. And then that's scary because that's how I've been known for so long. So anyway, if you have an opinion on it, let me know what you think. There is a thread in the So Now What podcast Rav group, which that would be changing as well. So it's a lot of change, but I know I can do it. I know that Tiny Paper Foxes changed theirs to handmade woolen. And, you know, sometimes you just have to change and grow with where you're going. So anyway, it's a consideration. I want to talk about, I was going to say, I usually start with talking about the quilt that's on the wall, but I kind of have rambled here for a little while. So that's not what I'm starting with, but I'm going to go to it now. The quilt that's on the wall is crazy and colorful and fun, and it's a quilt I made and designed about a year ago. And what it is, it's made with one block. And it was, what I did is I challenged myself. I was curious on if I take this one really simple block, which I'll show the block here. If I take that block and just rearrange it and put it in place in different ways, what secondary designs can you get? Because I love getting secondary designs. And so played around with it in my EQ program, which is Electric Quilt computer program, and it's a quilt designing program. It's really good. I barely know how to use it because it's pretty intense. It's pretty deep. It can do a lot more than I know how to do. But anyway, played around with it and came up with this design. And I really like it just for the fact that it's colorful and fun, but I love the different shapes and stuff that you get out of it, because there's some diamonds, there's some stars. I'll put in a picture somewhere. Maybe it was in the intro. I don't know. Take a picture of the whole quilt so that you can see it a little bit better. But it looks better, like when you step back from it, then you can see the secondary designs. So it is a free pattern that I published on the blog that I co-wrote on last year. And I will put a link to that and any other links to any other info in the show notes below this video, just in the drop down doohickey thing. So if I mention anything, that's where you'll find it. So anyway, I call this the Modern Railroad because the block is like the railroad block or something, and I had a modern twist to it. I used some charm packs, which are 5.5 inch squares, and I used some 2.5 inch strips and some gray fabric and black fabric, and all that information is on that blog post that I'll link you to. Coming up, I have a winner to my giveaway, which was just a thank you giveaway because I just appreciate y'all so much. I am going to talk about a KAL that's going to start that me and another podcaster are going to host, and then we'll go into some whips and some hose. I have no FOs, but yeah, let's get into that stuff. Okay, first off, let me talk about the KAL that's going to start. We're coming up to October pretty soon because we're getting to the end of September. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I thought it would be a fun KAL to do to make boobs. So the KAL is for knitted knockers, and knitted knockers are exactly what you think they are. They're boobs. They're knit out of cotton. So Cascade Pima cotton is what they recommend, and it is a very nice cotton. I used this when we did the Chemo Cap KAL earlier in the year. There is a website, knittedknockers.org. Sorry, I think it's .org. And there's a ton of information. They have a ton of information. So that's them. They have patterns for double pointed needles, magic loop. There's crochet patterns. They've pretty much got it covered. The different breast sizes. And so I've got one made. And I did stuff it, and I stuffed it just with leftover fleece from the fleece hats that I cut out, just so that I can show you. I'm going to take that out and ship it unstuffed, because they'll stuff them when you ship it. But I put a colorful backing. It's just the stuffing stuff. That'll get closed up. But I put a colorful backing on the back just to be fun and colorful. And they say that you can make like 5.5 pairs, about 5 pairs of these from one of those skeins of Cascade Pima cotton. So I thought if I had a little bit of this left over from the hats, and I thought if I put that in the back, that'll make this go further. So I ended up using 14 grams, I think. Did I write it down? 7 grams. I used 7 grams for the back of one. So you would use 14 grams for a pair for the backing. So if you have a different color, they recommend doing soft colors, nude colors for the front, and then you can go crazy on the back, because then that's going to be up against their body. So we're going to do the Knitted Knockers KAL, and Knitted Knockers has already got a hashtag, so I kind of want to make a boob along, but I'm afraid that might be weird. I haven't checked it out. I might have to check it out. So we could do a boob along. So I'm going to host it, and then my friend Kathy, who has the We Be Knitting podcast, is going to co-host it with me. And she's an avid crocheter, so I'm hoping she's going to make one out of doing crochet, and maybe kind of show that on her podcast of how she does it, and any tips and tricks. I had a really hard time starting this because you start at the nipplage area, and you're only starting with 3 stitches. And so I was having a hard time not getting things twisted around, and then I would get distracted. I was helping my friend learn to knit, and I would get distracted by that, and you can't get distracted. And then when I was in Dublin Bay with Michelle over the weekend, this lady came in and was just looking around the shop, and we got to chatting with her, and she's from Arizona, and she's part of a huge knitting guild, like 150 members or something, and they do a lot. They do a lot of knitted knockers. And so I told her I was having trouble, and she said that's pretty common to have a hard time with it, and kind of gave me some tips. And then from what I remembered from what she said, I kind of altered a little how I did it. So I wanted to share with you that, so that when you get started, you won't get so frustrated. So you start here, and you got 3 stitches. And then what I did is I made an I-cord. With the 3 stitches, I did 3 rows of I-cord. So that's when you knit across, and then you just slide your knitting back over, and you knit across again, and it makes more like a tube kind of. And the instructions show you how to do one with a nipple, like a protruding nipple, which I don't think I wouldn't want, and so I don't want to make one. I think they look ugly. But when they show that instruction, they have the nipple on the outside, and what I did is just did 3 rows. So it just kind of gave it a clump, and that I kept it on the inside. So what that did is it made that cinch up really good, and it gave me something to kind of hold on to and see where I was, so I could tell that I wasn't getting things twisted, because I haven't worked with double pointed needles in quite a while. Most of the stuff I do, like for socks or hats or anything like that, I do as a magic loop. And I could do magic loop for this, but I thought, let me just do it with double points. And so once I got past that and started increasing, and you just increase every single row until you get to however many, they have a certain number of rows, tell you what breast size it's going to be. And then you do a couple of purl rows to make this edge, and then I switched colors. Or you can keep the same color, whatever. So then after that initial start, it was really pretty easy. So then when you mail these off to an organization, and they have organizations worldwide, so I'll put the link to the website down below, and click on that to find out what kind of matches with where you are. The main office seems to be in Bellingham, Washington, which isn't very far from me, so that's where I'll be sending mine, and you send them unstuffed, so that postage isn't very much. I ordered some more of the Pima cotton from the website, yarn.com, and they're $5 a hank. So it's pretty inexpensive, and if you can make like 5 pairs, it's pretty inexpensive. So I got to make another one out of this color. I've got some more colors coming. Like I said, I ordered yesterday. I wanted to get a dark brown because not everybody is my color. And they don't have a real dark brown, but they had a, I think they called it sand or something. So it was a darker beige. So I've got a light beige and a darker beige coming, and then some fun colors to put on the backs because I think that just makes it kind of fun. So yeah, so join me and join Kathy and go check out her podcast and join us on the Boobalong. So I'm gonna check the hashtag right now actually and see if that's even a thing. So hang on a second. Okay, don't do Boobalong as a hashtag because I saw some things on there I didn't want to see. So we'll just use Knitted Knockers and we'll join in with everybody else that's doing Knitted Knockers throughout the world. So check the podcast Ravelry group for more information, and I hope you all decide to join us. I'm going to move into some of the whips I have. I'm not sure, I couldn't remember if I showed this last time, but I finished the whole sock that I was making with the Cozy Knitter yarn. This is the Friends for Life colorway. I really like working with their yarn. The contrasting heel and toe is a success, looks fabulous. I have to put this on hold because I've got other stuff that has to get done. Like my mom's socks, got one done. So this is that yarn that I had dyed, and I showed I talked about anyway, the process of how I got about doing it on a couple of previous episodes. I did duplicate this. Oh, excuse me. That was rude. I don't know where that came from. Sorry. I was able to duplicate this, and this will be in the shop update. This is Autumn Blaze. So this is what it'll look like if you knit socks with it. Kind of, because, hand-dyed yarn doesn't look exactly the same from skein to skein, but it's very close. So got one done, just a vanilla sock. I have about not much done on the second sock, so got to get that done, so I can't finish my sock for myself until I get that done. Another whip, which I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Zoe at the Pins and Needles podcast. I have talked about Zoe in the past, and she also watches my podcast. And when I showed the skein of yarn that I got from Savvy Skeins and mentioned the pattern that I wanted to make with it, she was so generous and kind and sent me the pattern. And I got the message that it came through when I was camping, so that was really exciting. So I am going to make, thanks to Zoe, I'm going to make the Star Shower cowl. And I'm using the yarn that I got from Savvy Skeins, which is just all different lovely colors, and it's on a sparkle base. I guess I should give you all the particulars. Savvy Skeins Fair Sparkle colorway is Pandemonium. So I got started on it, and let's see, it's probably really going like this. It's pretty. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, that was super generous and a surprise, and it was very appreciated. So thank you. So this is how it's knitting up. It is a cowl that's connected. So somehow after I get through, I think the section that I'm in, after I get through that, somehow I connect it. We'll see when we get there. It's knitting up pretty well. The yarn's nice. The only issue I'm having is I'm having an issue with my needle. I'm using Knitter's Pride. I started off with the platina needles, which are metal, and it was too slippery. So then I took those tips off, put on my Knitter's Pride wooden needles, and that's fine, but I don't feel like the tip is pointy enough. It's a pretty pointy tip, but I'm having issues with when you're making these eyelet holes, you knit 3 and then you take the first stitch. So you got to stick the needle in there back a few stitches and pull that over. I'm having a hard time getting my needle in there. I'm not a tight knitter, and I'm trying to do that first stitch that's going to be slipped even looser, but I'm still having a hard time. And so it goes slow. My hands get tired. My hands get sore. It's a little frustrating that that's happening. I don't want to go buy new needles, so I will just kind of limp along with it. I don't know how often. I think I have to kind of do that stitch pretty much throughout the whole thing. So I don't know, maybe it gets easier. But I'm enjoying knitting it. I am enjoying knitting it, and I'm loving the way it's turning out, and I think it's going to be a gorgeous cowl. So thank you, Zoe. Another thing I'm working on, and I haven't made a whole lot of headway because I thought I was going to get a lot done when I was camping, and I didn't. And it's on my cowl that I showed last time, part of the Graveyard Cowl that the Yarn 30 podcast, which is hosted by Katrina of Cat's Kettle. And so this is what I got so far. I've got to do these stripes. So I have several more stripes to do, and then it connects with the provisional cast on and makes a whole circle. So I've got till the end of October, I believe, for that one. So it's not as big of a like surge. I don't have to really force myself too much. So yeah, just a little frustration with the whole needle situation. Okay, now I want to announce the winner of my thank you giveaway. It was a giveaway that I mentioned on my last episode that I wanted to say thank you to everyone who is taking the time to watch me and support me and just be the fabulous yous that you are. You just needed to put in an answer on the thread of what's your favorite notion. A lot of people, the favorite notions are their crochet hook, or a lot of people use something from Knit Picks that's got a crochet hook and a crochet hook on both sides, or I don't know, something like that. So between crochet hooks and scissors, those were the top mentions anyway. So I did random number generator. We had 49 entries. One of them was me, so I did it from number 2 to number 49, and it picked number 6. And number 6 is Mystery Sewer, who is Sandy, out of Queensville, Ontario, Canada. So congratulations, Sandy. You get some Felicia yarn in the Sunset colorway, which is perfect for fall. So message me, get a hold of me and give me your address, and I will ship these out to you as soon as possible. So congratulations. Thanks to everybody for taking the time to enter. That was a lot of fun. So thank you. There's a couple of KALs. See, now it's like the season of KALs, and I want to do them all, but I can't. So one of them I was kind of thinking about is Tracy over at the Thimble and Thread Make podcast. She's got a lovely podcast, and I really enjoy watching her. Hi, Tracy. She's doing a super bulky grandpa sweater from Joji Locatelli. And it's her first sweater, and she's doing it really well. And the fact that it's on with super bulky yarn makes it go really fast. And I thought it would be a really nice, like, first sweater to do, but it's super bulky, and I just can't picture myself wearing super bulky. So I'm on the fence with that one. Probably not. But if you're interested in doing something like that, go over to Thimble and Thread Make. She's got a wonderful podcast, and go to her Ravelry group, and there's some particulars about it in there. There is a KAL that I will be participating in that starts October 1st, that it's being co-hosted by Katie of Inside Number 23 and Marcia of the Stitch and Twitch podcast. I'm sorry, Marcia. So she's known as Fairy Little. They're going to co-host a color work KAL, and I've already mentioned I'm going to do the bobblehead hat, which is color work. It'd be my first color work project, and I thought, oh, perfect. I'll start and I'll be part of that KAL. So check them out, Inside Number 23 and the Stitch and Twitch podcast. And if you've got any color work things that you've got kind of like up and coming for Christmas, that'd be a good KAL to join in on. My dilemma is, meanwhile, while I'm waiting for it to happen, A pattern very similar to this came out with pandas. It's like panda bears across the top. And I'm making this for my 14-year-old niece for Christmas, and I don't know. I don't know which one she'd prefer. So I may make the bobblehead, and I may make, I think maybe called Pandemonium. I'd have to look it up again, and I can't remember. I'll put the information here. I'll look it up. So it's cute. It's real similar to that, but with panda bears, which may be cuter. I don't know. What's the in thing? I'm so not in the in thing. I don't even know. So, so those are coming up. When I'm at the quilt shop, I have some chemo caps cut out. So I'm going to be sewing some of those while I'm there because that makes me sit down and sew those. And, you know, it's not super busy. So in between, when people come in and out, I can sit and sew. So I've got all my stuff packed to go do that. So I'll be sewing some of those. Oh, and another thing too, if you do make like these chemo caps I showed on the last episode, the scraps that come off of the polar fleece fabric, I chop that up into small pieces and then I make like a dog bed pillow. And you can just either take a pillowcase and stuff it or just some leftover fabric. It doesn't even need to, well, for my dog, it doesn't need to be very big. And I've made a cat pillow for my son, for his cat, and you just use that as stuffing. It's just polyester, so it can be washed, and it's a good way to recycle what's left over. So I've got a big bag that I'm saving for that, and I'll make some pet beds out of that. And sometimes the humane societies in your area will take pet beds. I've done that before too. Even with leftover batting and those kinds of scraps. And I just take my rotary cutter and just sit there and just chop it up into, you know, pieces about that big and then stuff it in. So, all right, I'm going to do a shop update. So if you are not interested in the new yarns I've got to show, then thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in a couple weeks when I record again. And if you are interested, I'll show you what I got going on. So the socks that I showed you, this here, the Autumn Blaze. Oops, that's a different one. This is the yarn. So I was able to duplicate it. I mean, every skein's going to be a little bit different, and that's how a hand-dyed yarn is, but it's pretty much the same. So that's kind of how that'll knit up, depending on what you make. If you don't make socks, it'll look different. So I've got Autumn Blaze. I've got Granite back in the shop. That sold out, so I got that back in the shop. I have Plum Crazy in the sock, my lovely sock base. I have a skein of this in the cashmere base as well, but this is in the one that's got some nylon in it. I've got Butternut, which is almost a pumpkin-y color, but it's a very vibrant goldy orange color. Nice tonal. I actually think that goes together really well. That goes together really well. And even that kind of does too. I have a couple of Christmas colors. So we've got Under the Mistletoe. That kind of goes together too. So Under the Mistletoe is mostly greens with some reds and golds and yellows in there. I've got Visions of Sugar Plums. Love this color. Of course I do because it's purple. I think this would make a really pretty featherweight cardigan. Just saying. I might have to do that. Madewell. I'd probably do a Madewell. But, yeah. So that's like plums and purples and dark grays and so lovely. Then I played around with worsted. So this is going to be just a one-of-a-kind, doesn't have a name, but it's a really lovely green, kind of bluish undertones to it. And it's a worsted weight, 100% superwash merino, 218 yards, I think it is. I'd have to look it up. So I'll put this in the shop too. So that's it. I've got some colors that sold out that I have to dye more of, but this week isn't going to be a dye week, unfortunately, because I have to work. So, oh, and if you're in the area, Oregon Flock and Fiber, which is a fiber festival, is this coming weekend. I'm not going to be able to go because I have to work. But if you're in our area, that sounds like that's a really fun thing to go to. Michelle and Leslie have been talking about it for a while, and I was really anxious to go, and it's just not going to work out this year. So if you're in the area, you should go check it out because it sounds like fun. So thank you so much for watching me and joining me in this lovely little podcast. I try and keep them between a half hour and 45 minutes. So hopefully I've done that because I've kind of lost track of time. I've noticed lately that a lot of podcasts have gone a lot longer, and I'm having a hard time watching them to the end because I just don't have time to sit down and watch a 2-hour podcast. And I know you can stop anywhere and come back, but then other episodes of other podcasts come up. And so to stay on top of everything, I sometimes don't get through all those really long ones. So I try and keep it kind of shorter. Hopefully I have. This has been too rambly? I don't know. I even had notes, and I think I followed them. So go to the Rav group. Check out the new stuff that's being posted there, the new threads. Go watch the Weeby Knitting podcast and see what she's got going on over there. Pins and Needles, Thimble and Thread Make, Inside Number 23, Stitch and Twitch. There's a ton of them out there. So now's a good time of year because now it gets dark earlier and it's football season. So I like to sit and knit during a football game and watch podcasts, because I'm not that interested in football. So anyway, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. Thank you so much for watching and joining me in this crazy adventure. And I will see you in a couple of weeks.